Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Tanya Love Show. I'm so glad you could all join us today live. For those of you that are just tuning in, if you want to go on to that live chat box and put in your name or a nickname, that's how you can join us in the live chat. So I encourage you to do that. And then anybody that would like to call in today, I put on Facebook and Twitter and kind of promoted the show today and said that the first person who calls in today I will do a complimentary reading for. So if any of you would like me to tune in and connect on what's going on with you and give you some angelic guidance, I encourage you to call in today. The number is 919-518-9773. Or if you call in through Skype, it's Computers 2K Voice. So give you a moment there to get all that information. Um, I was just telling Amnon, we always kind of, hey, how are you doing? How are you doing? And we have our little chat. And I was just saying, I've been feeling really just peaceful and content. And I mean, I'm always pretty peaceful anyway, but just I've been feeling very present and peaceful in my life. And I've been leading some yoga teacher trainings in my area, and I call them the essence of yoga and meditation. And I've been working with students in a very deep way. And it's a very intimate process where we work together over the course of 3 months. And it's just been really beautiful connecting with these souls that have been summoned in by the angels. And I feel like as much as the humans that I work with say that I help them, I just feel so blessed to work with them as well. I feel blessed to work with all of my clients that are remote, that, do Skype sessions with me and that join me for the Empowering the Empath mentorship and all of the different things that I am a part of. But I just felt like I want to take a moment just to say thank you to all of you that actually, trust me and come and you want to share your vulnerable truth with me. Like I'll tell some of my clients, and after a healing session, we'll work together 3 or 4 hours, and it's very intimate and deep, and we're going deep into their cellular memory and things that have happened in their lifetime and sometimes lifetimes. And I always just kind of bow to them and thank them for trusting me and coming to work with me, because it's such a vulnerable process. And I just really bow with honor to those who have the courage to enter into such a intimate setting, because some of us we've been really trained to be guarded and to be, private about what we've moved through and what we've gone through. And so I just feel such honor for those who have the courage to be transparent and vulnerable. That takes huge courage. And so I just feel very grateful in my life, very peaceful and content. And today, the topic that is coming up kind of during my yoga teacher training earlier today, the subjects that were coming up was what guided me to feel led, to have a subject for the show today. And that is just living authentically and truthfully, really living with your empowerment. And why is that important? Like, why should we live authentically? And why should we live as an empowered being instead of a codependent being? What's the purpose of that? And what do we get from it? And this is some of what I feel that my soul is personally on this planet to assist with. And we've had so much, like if we look at the course of our lives, we've had so much training to go against ourselves. We've had so much conditioning to deny our own truth. We've had so much training from our tribal families to attach and to, be codependent and to enable misalignment and to silence ourselves and to cut off our wisdom and silence and have issues in our throat chakra. And I just feel like what I want to get addressed today is how so much of this conditioning has caused a lot of the instability and misalignment, the sickness, the stress, the anxiety, the fear. All of that energy has come from these choices. Yet we've been very much conditioned to do this and to live in this way, from those closest to us. And so one of my clients was asking me, she's like, how do you break that pattern, Tanya? Like, how do you go from, a place where you've been taught all that And then how do you separate yourself from it and not take it personally when others still are hurtful and still are controlling and fearful? And so, what I was expressing to this individual was that for myself personally, I observe life now from a place of empowerment, whereas most of my life I was in a state of learning empath, which is what in when I'm teaching mentorships of the empowering the empath, being the learning empath is a part of the process, and there's nothing wrong with you if you're in that part of the process. And it's really important that we don't get our egos, stimulated when we're in that learning phase to where we then look at the very mentors that come in to assist us and we start to compete or compare with them, because all that will do is slow down our own process. And really, the mentors, if they're in their alignment, they're just going to observe it and realize what's going on, but it's not going to really do anything to serve either of you. And what I've noticed is when I was in an in the learning empath stage of life, I was often looking out of my eyes at everyone around me as, what is it that I have to do to be good enough here? What do I have to do to be enough? What do I have to do to get their acceptance, their approval? What do I have to do so that they'll like me? And a lot of humans that I work with, a lot of souls that I work with as clients, they come in and they're like, "That's exactly where I'm at, Tanya. That's exactly. I feel like I'm always doing this dance to try to please others, to try to get their approval, to try to get them to like me. I don't feel like I fit in here. I feel like I want to escape this planet." And a lot of the souls that are very sensitive beings, I don't really like to label, but in books, a lot of them are referred to as indigo children or star seeds, crystal children. There's all these different names, earth angels. In essence, these are empathic souls that they feel energy. And an empath in our essence is we read the universe through vibration. We read it through what we feel. And so one of the things the reason I love leading these mentorships on empowering the empath is because that is my soul's mission, is to empower as many empaths as I can while I'm here through this show, through the workshops, through the one-on-one healings. My heart, soul, essence, and reason for being here is to assist in empowering every soul that's open, willing, and ready to shift all that they need to shift in order to embody that. And so sometimes we go through a phase where we know we want to become something. And so in yoga, when I'm teaching yoga classes, sometimes we'll do a posture and I will, encourage the students to actually set an intention as they move into that posture, and to set the intention of not only am I moving in this posture in my body, but what is this energy that I'm ready to now embody? And if I'm going to go into this new posture and this new embodiment, what is it that I need to leave behind in order to make space for that? And this is what I work with clearing clients on, is when you're having an auric clearing, there's obviously something not in its highest alignment, or you wouldn't be coming to see me. And so part of the process is understanding what you're ready to become, what you are on the process of shape-shifting towards, and at the same time, what is it that you need to release in order to make space for that? So if we feel like we want to become more confident, more proactive, we want to be more empowered, more courageous, then we must release our insecurity. We must let go of fear. We must let go of our ego's need to control. If we wish to live more authentically, more truthfully, more vulnerable, with more vulnerability, then we have to release the ego's need to be afraid and to cling and to attach and to try to hide behind false images. And so, a lot of this process of our becoming as we're awakening is not just what we want in life, like as a goal, but it's also us having the awareness of what we now need to shed and leave behind. So, kind of like, a snake will shed its old skin and then it will embody its new form. Or you see snails will leave an old shell behind so that they can move into a newer shell, a newer chamber. And in order for them to do that, they have to leave the old behind. I've also referenced the butterfly metaphor many times, where that caterpillar must leave its old form behind in order to fly and become the butterfly. And so, in your lives, those of you that are tuning in and listening, if you're here and you're connecting with us every week, there's enough awareness in you to know that there is something in you ready to, fully ignite. You're ready to become something. And if you're here listening, there's some awareness there to at least know that. And what I'm going to encourage you to process over this next hour with me is to tune into what is it that I need to now release in order to become. And because there is this process of release that must happen, I need to be very honest with myself. So if there's some part of myself I'm ready to be, I'm ready to speak publicly, I'm ready to put myself out there and be transparent and live with courage, then what do I have to let go of? I have to let go of my ego. Otherwise, it's going to be a really stressful ride if I'm still clinging to ego and I'm wanting to live in my power. They're going to be at war with each other. So, if we can at least get the alignment inside of us of what we know what we're ready to become, then we can start to tune in deeply into what it is we're ready to release and let go of and leave behind. And that's a very important part of the process. Um, One of the cards, I drew a card today, the Hawaiian healing cards, just to start the show off, and I'll show you a picture of it. It's a pretty flower. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but hopefully I am. It's Awayo, and it's true and authentic. And what it represents is authenticity, truth, and self awareness are the key to your success, your evolution, and most importantly, the offering and the receiving of love. Others can't know you until you know yourself. And really think about that statement. Others cannot know you until you know yourself. And so think of how many of us spend our lifetimes trying to get others just to appreciate us and approve of us, and we want them to accept us, but yet we're not really showing them who we are. We're just trying to be little clones to everyone around us. And I'm not saying everyone's doing this, but a lot of humans will spend their time kind of morphing into their friends, morphing into different things so that they will be accepted. One of my clients had made a reference of how she has, some family members, and she's observed how one of them has had this journey where she's completely lost a sense of her identity repeatedly to try to go and become something that she admires. And then as she admires this thing, then she needs to compete with those who are in this realm. And I was listening to her speak, and I'm like, that is something I've completely observed humans do. And one time when I was living in Arizona, I was speaking with this Tibetan monk, and he was talking about how there was a man who had come and he had trained with him, and he wanted to be a monk as well. And he was like from Brooklyn or something like that. And he was doing everything he could to be the best monk he could be. And he had the robes and the outfit and the whole thing down. And one day he was asking the monk, what is it I need to do to really get to this place where I am completely enlightened? Like, what do I need to do more so that I'm like you are? And the monk just smiled at him and laughed and said, take off your robes and go back and live where you came from and be authentic, like be who you are. And the guy was not sure really what to do with that because he's wanting to be accepted. And he thinks if I can become a Tibetan monk, then I'll be worthy. And what I realize is that so many of us as humans, we will spend our lifetime trying to get approval of others. And so we'll shapeshift many times, but it's all about the intention of why we are. So if we're shapeshifting and I'm trying to be a hippie this year, so I'm like running around wild and free and not using deodorant, and I'm not insulting hippies, but I'm just saying there's like stereotypical things. And I'm just gonna only eat vegan and I'm gonna be just like die hard hippie. And then in a year or two, I am really fascinated with yogi, and a yogi that I meet. And so then I moved to India and I saw all my stuff, and I need to now live in an ashram, and then I'll be authentically, yogi, and then I can be accepted. And then that doesn't maybe feel right for a while. So then I go and I want to become a Buddhist monk. And so I, shave my head and I'm wearing the robes and I'm a monk now. You kind of see where I'm going with this? Like many of us will do this in our journey, and it's not coming from a place of me showing the world who I am. It's me looking to be accepted by different beings that I maybe admire. And I feel like the key to a happy, authentic life is to admire others in their own states of being and look to those around us as mirrors. Like there are those who have looked to me and they look up to me as a mentor and as a role model. And then there's sometimes where I notice they do that for a moment. And then if the ego is what's leading them, the next thing I can sense is now they want to compete with me or compare with me. And now they in some way need to like be better than what I am. That's so silly. Instead, if we just admired each other and admired what we understood and our own gifts, but we could still show up authentically, that would be more liberating and more enjoyable for any individual. And so the soul that's constantly trying to fit in, even if it's a spiritual path and we're trying to be accepted spiritually, the ego can also seduce us. It doesn't matter what path we're on or what costume we wear. If the ego is running the show, there's going to be suffering. But if we're showing up authentically and we're letting our own spirit move through, it doesn't matter what costume I wear. If I'm on the show and I'm wearing a dress, or if I'm wearing yoga clothes, or if I'm wearing a robe, it doesn't take away from the wisdom I have. But if I'm wearing a robe, that does not make me more worthy. And I feel like as humans, we need to wake up to the game, because a lot of us play these games where we will put more importance on certain people and therefore take it away from our own life because we do this. We kind of are in this phase where I feel a lot of what's waking up in humanity, what there's a opportunity for shifting towards, is to leave this need to chase down others and make someone your guru or your hero, to make something your idol, and instead wake up to your own self-love, and you can show honor to all those on the path and bow to them with love and see the goodness and the light in them, but show up and show life who you really are. And so if we're trying to morph ourselves into different beings, we're never going to really show life who we are. And the ultimate purpose of your life is to know self, is to actually realize yourself. And so if we're spending all of our time trying to blend and fit in, we're really going to miss the point. And I've observed the souls who suffer the greatest are the ones desiring to fit in the most. They want to fit in, they want to be accepted, they want to be trendy, popular, successful, famous, and it's coming from ego. Now, that doesn't mean you couldn't become a famous person that people know your name or respect you greatly. You could do those things, but the difference is how you enter that state. Do you enter it needing to be accepted and approved of and to belong? Or do you simply arrive and speak your truth and let your magic be shared? There's a difference. And so that's kind of the point today. I'm going to pause and see if anybody's got any comments on that. And if you do, write in because I'd love to hear from you.
Nothing yet.
Okay. So I'm going to finish reading this card. It says, others can't know you until you know yourself. Others can't love you for who you truly are unless you reveal yourself to them. And you can't achieve the greatness you came here for until you embody your most empowered and authentic self. So think about that line again. You cannot achieve the greatness you came here for until you embody your most empowered and authentic self. And I really feel that is a true statement. That is truth. This card is truth and authentic. And that statement feels truthful to me. We cannot, achieve these great things if we're living fake, misaligned lives. And we can't trick the world because we can't trick ourselves. So even if we feel like we're kind of pulling one over on a few people and we're getting them convinced that we're a certain thing that we're saying we are, while we're really, when we're by ourselves, we feel nothing like that. This is something that we have to address, because for us to actually feel comfortable in our own skin, for us to actually come into every relationship we connect with in our life with greater power, we must arrive authentically. If we're constantly trying to get approval and get attention and get them to like us, we will not ever show up authentically, and we won't really show love and honor to the other, because our intention, our agenda will be all about getting attention on ourselves. Getting an energy hit is more what it is. It's like the ultimate energetic vampire is going to be seeking that attention all the time instead of showing up and authentically revealing truth and also honoring others as they show up and reveal their truth at the same time. So here is the intention. If any of you want to write this down, this could be a great intention to put in your journals, or maybe to write it on your bathroom mirror, put it in your purse somewhere so that you can keep your focus on an intention. That is how we're going to create a new experience. So this intention may feel completely like that doesn't feel truthful for me yet. It feels aligned. It feels like that would be a really great thing, but it doesn't feel like how I'm living. That is why we set this intention and why we affirm it again and again, because as we think this, we start to speak this, we will become this. So if you're not this today, that's okay. That's why you're watching the show. That's why you're coming to see me as a healer, see me for healing sessions, is because you're on the journey of this understanding and realization. So if you don't feel like it's aligned yet, this is why we want to start affirming it. We want to start setting it as our intention. And so the intention is, my intention is to know myself, to live and love authentically, and to allow my deepest truth to guide all of my endeavors. So I'll read that again. My intention is to know myself, to live and love authentically, and to allow my deepest truth to guide all of my endeavors. And so in my yoga training today, when I was talking with one of my clients, I was explaining, she was saying, Tanya, how do you handle this and this situation? And there were different family situations. And I feel like family in general is like one of the most, I don't like to put words that cause limitation, because what I hear a lot is it's so hard. And I'm like, it's not really hard. It's just there is a shift that needs to be made. So when we're attached and we have role and title attachment, then we say it's hard. So if I have a role and a title attachment to like my mother, then I'm going to think it's hard to be authentic with mother. But if I don't have a role and attachment title thing going on with mother, then I can show up authentically. And it's not hard. It's a different shift in perspective. It's a different shift in consciousness. So if any of you are affirming again and again that something is hard, first thing I encourage you to do is to catch that and to shift that thought, that mental concept of it's hard. Because if you continue to think that, you will continue to experience the experience of what hard is, what challenge is. But if you can shift that in your mind to, I am authentically showing up with every endeavor, which is that intention, then that is not hard. That is me showing up authentically, 100% me, no matter who I am connecting with, whether I'm on a show, whether I meet Oprah Winfrey, whether I am talking to a homeless person, whether I am in a meeting at work or talking to my husband, my child, my grandma. It doesn't matter. What is important for my happiness is my showing up authentically. What will cause a soul to have great suffering is they may show up, let's say they come to my Sacred Soul Sister Circle and they're like, I feel so good when I come here, Tanya. And because a lot of women will say that, I just feel so good to connect with sisters and we show up for each other and we have such love for each other and I can be authentic. But then most of the month when they're not there, they say they struggle and it's hard and no one accepts them. It's not that the world is doing that. They are creating that because they are showing up to this situation authentically and truthfully, whereas most of their life, they don't do that. And so the bliss and the joy they feel temporarily is actually something they could experience every moment of their life if they chose to show up authentically all the time. And so the challenge with this, and it's not really a challenge, but I would say, what would the best word be for this? I would say there could be a consequence to living with such courage. And the consequence to living so authentically could mean that certain beings who once attached themselves to you or that you attached yourself to will no longer be attached to you. And big picture, that is a blessing. That is a freedom for you and the others. But the part that feels hard, that I feel clients when they say it's hard, is that what's really hard for them is that they are still in a learning empath stage and they are learning and trying their best to become empowered and to speak authentically. And the only hardness there is if they attach to an agenda. So let's say if I need to speak my authentic truth on this show, and then somebody doesn't like that and they say, get her off there, we don't want to hear what she has to say, then there could be a consequence. They could try to shut me down. I could be like boycotted. Ask the Dixie Chicks. They went through this. They spoke their truth. The radio shows didn't want to play them anymore. And they kind of boycotted against them just for speaking their authentic truth. There was a huge journey for that soul, though, and she learned a lot of lessons from that experience. And so, big picture, you're not really going to lose anything that is authentically yours. Let's put it that way. And sometimes when we're being challenged in life to show up authentically, there could be a consequence for that. We could be at work and we could actually speak from the heart what we've been wanting to say from since day one, and we could lose that job. Someone could fire us and say, we don't really want her light in here. We don't really like her light and her awareness, so get her out of here. We'll just replace her with someone who's really out of alignment and insecure, and we'll do whatever we say and be our little bitch. And that's just really the way it is. So the biggest challenge will be the consequence of living authentically is, are you willing to release attachment to role and title? If someone doesn't like you today, are you still going to be okay with yourself? And this is where you must know yourself in order to be an empowered empath. I cannot tell you how many times souls have tried to attach themselves to me or tried to seduce me into doing, business things with them or whatever. And I'm always open and receptive, like, okay, let's check into that. I would love to hear what you have to say. And then when I show up authentically and I speak my truth, sometimes they don't like that. They'll try to shame me, guilt me, control my voice, enslave me, get me to, somehow believe they're in charge of me. And when I won't give them that, they show their true intentions. And often I am like lashed out at publicly. They block me from Facebook. I've heard, through the grapevine things happen. This is all stuff in my past, nothing that's happening now. But my reason for sharing is that there have been times where there has been consequences. There was a time where I got a job and I felt I was hired to speak truth and to gather information. And when I did exactly what I was hired to do, they didn't like it because there was so much misalignment there. They actually didn't really believe I was going to show up and do my job. And so over time, I knew it was time for me to leave that job because there was no desire from those core leaders to actually change and shift into a space of alignment. And so an empowered empath doesn't necessarily have an easy life, meaning everything's easy breezy and just given to you, but everything that comes to you will come to you for a reason. And like I'll tell my clients, if you're somewhere, you can ask life one of two things when anything happens to you. Why me, God? Like the why me energy is more victim. Like, how could this happen to me? Or shift that energy a bit and say, why are you choosing me? What is it that I have to offer this situation? Speak through me, teach through me, heal through me, transform through me, inspire through me. And that is an empowered empath alignment for any situation. So it doesn't mean that because I chose to become an empowered empath and actually be in my power, that everything's going to be perfect, meaning there will be no life situations that could be challenging. Not at all. But it means that when those energies come to me, those situations, those challenges come, I will answer that call with confidence and I will speak in my power. I will show up authentically. And that is what makes Tanya happy. And so when I spent most of my life trying to please others and trying to be enough and to be accepted, I surrounded myself with humans that attached to me, drained my energy, didn't respect me, could give a shit about me, truly. And when the day came that I realized that, it was kind of painful. I won't lie. It was a painful thing to realize, wow, all these humans that I have attached to me, like suckling off my life force, could really give a crap about my well being. That's kind of eye opening. Good to know. And now I have to release them. I have to shake this energy off so that I can actually move in a direction that will it will fulfill me. It will actually nurture me. And so for any of you listening, if you're saying it's hard to be authentic, it's not hard to be authentic. There is a consequence, though. There is absolutely a consequence. And it's not that it's hard to do it, it's just some part of you is afraid of what may change. And so I dare you to tune in and really challenge yourself with that. Maybe you've been attaching to a friend for a long time and you call each other friend, but you don't really speak truth to each other. And now it doesn't feel loving, it doesn't feel nurturing, and one of you is getting drained while the other is suckling all the energy. It's important to be honest with yourself about that. It could be a relationship. Maybe you're in a partnership, a marriage, or a business partnership where, or a parent child partnership where one being is out of alignment and has been for a long time. Well, actually, if one's out, they're usually both out, but one meaning one's been taking, and the other has been giving, over giving, also not an empowered position. So this would be an opportunity where that soul stops giving from guilt, obligation, fear, expectation, and they start to speak truthfully of what they really feel, and they start to show honor to themselves. This also honors the other and says, I believe in your capabilities, so I am going to honor you as you find your own alignment. I'm not going to let you attach to me any longer, being codependent, which is sucking energy from me in a way that's draining me. And so it's important that we balance that in ourselves and each other. And so if we're showing up like this authentically in a friendship or in a partnership, a marriage, a business partnership, then we should feel comfortable being able to speak our truth, and they should be comfortable speaking their truth. And then together we focus our energies on solution, and we focus our energies on creation. And this should benefit both energies. Both energies should thrive and be benefiting from that aligned relationship. And so just kind of look into your life right now, into your life situation. And if it's not really beautiful and harmonious, first step is to look at how you're creating that, how you are an active participant in that misalignment. And do you wish to continue that? Or are you ready to take your power back? Are you ready to shift some things so that you can show up authentically? And that may mean you speak your truth at the dinner table, and grandma, who's been out of alignment for 50 years, gets up and leaves in a hussy, upset at you because you dared to speak truth to her. Let her go. Realize grandma was going to do that shit forever, so may as well speak your truth. And I feel like it's so important for us to get to that place because it even helps grandma. I'm not saying specifically my grandma, but I'm just saying in a situation, there's people that we attach to that we're so frightened to be honest with. And if us being honest makes them leave our movie, then so be it, because it wasn't authentic anyways. So the biggest fear each of you have is the fear of loss and the fear of change. And if you can realize that that's going to happen anyways, it is inevitable that change will happen in your life. Get comfortable with change, get comfortable with uncertainty, get comfortable with authenticity, and you will always be exactly where you need to be. And you will always be in the situations that are best for you if you learn to listen and tune into that authentic place. So I'm going to pause and see if there's any comments or questions.
Cindy is saying, wow, I needed these messages today. It's what I've really been struggling with this week.
Awesome. Well, not awesome that she's been struggling, but awesome that Spirit is channeling this through me at the divine aligned time. And thank you, Cindy, for that confirmation. Anything else coming through?
No, nothing
Oh,
else.
okay. Well, that is cool, and thank you for sharing that, Cindy. And yes, if we're going through this and we, feel that we're struggling in some way, the only thing that you really have power over changing is yourself. I'll just save you time. If we're walking around and wishing the world would change, good luck with that. I could walk around and wish the world would change for many lifetimes, and it probably is not going to change much. But if I choose to be the change, if I choose to shift myself, and I enter all relationships with all relationships with authenticity and complete alignment and truth, then my life will blossom and be amazing instantly. And it doesn't mean that everyone's going to like me. It's not about that. I feel like being authentic is not about getting everyone to like you. I can't tell you how many times I've spoken authentically where I was absolutely not the most popular person in the circle, but I also knew deeply in every fiber of my being that it was important that the message was shared, because the circle or the gathering, the tribe, the human, gang that I was next to, they were so like sleepwalking and codependently attached to each other that it was needed that messages of truth were brought. But when you're a truth bringer, a messenger, you're not always the most popular person in the circle. And so I think a lot of what we have to get rid of in our own desire is to feel like we need to be popular and we need to be accepted by everyone. Now, granted, I don't walk around in a martyr energy and think nobody likes me because I speak my truth. Not at all. Because I see people create this. They actually believe because they speak their truth that no one likes them. That's a whole nother show. We don't want to go into that script and dialogue of expecting negative things because we speak with truth. But when we speak authentically and we show up authentically, there is a consequence, and there are times where maybe it's not received well by everyone, but it is heard at the time that it's needed. So sometimes you might be a messenger to speak some truth, and it's just like sprinkling of seeds in that garden. And you may not see those seeds grow, but you were meant to sprinkle the seeds. And then maybe your movie shifted to where you are no longer there. Maybe 10 years later, you meet that same person or that group of people, and you're like, wow, they totally shifted. They totally listened to all those messages. And over time, they did change. They did find ways to shift. So we don't always see the immediate return for our energy, but know that it's valuable. Like, don't underestimate the importance of you showing up authentically every moment of your life. And the first, exchange in energy that you're going to get, the first reward will be your joy, because I really believe the essence of our joy and of our thriving, of our happiness and our success is from living authentically. I see people and they might appear successful, and this is where we have to get past the five sensory appearance of things and the deeper soul level knowing and truth of things. You can appear to be successful while totally, stripping the resources from everyone around you. You can appear to be successful while getting everyone's attention on you and getting your name in the limelights, and, having the status of ego that says, I have arrived. That's an appearance. But in your deepest places, when you don't feel at ease with yourself, you feel uncomfortable, you feel like you've overtaken, you feel like, there's never enough and you want more, 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 that is in you what has to be addressed. And so this is why sometimes we'll see souls on the planet that they make it, they become so successful, rich, wealthy, they got everything they could possibly dream of and wish for, yet they're still miserably unhappy. They're suicidal, they're doing drugs and trying to numb the pain. This is what I'm talking about. This sense of creating idols is not serving us, and it's not serving the ones that we're putting on a pedestal either. What's going to help us all is to show up authentically, to value all life equally. All life is valuable, and it doesn't matter like what house you live in or what you dress like. That is not what makes you you. It is not what gives you your value. But a lot of us, when we're coming from ego, we're going to seek these things because we're really hungry for something to fill up that void that says we're not enough. And when we really have filled that, we've healed that ourselves, we suddenly look out of different eyes of I am enough. And so how do I choose to show up today? How do I choose to serve? Instead of what do I need, it shifts to empowered empath looks out of eyes of how may I serve? And at the same time, my needs are absolutely fulfilled because I know I'm worthy. So it's like this beautiful, harmonious relationship with Source, the universe, and every relationship in our life. We're no longer in a needy place to where we ignore what feels off. And so we start to go from five sensory, where everything's what it looks like and appears, to six sensory living, which is how do I feel about this? So something I work with my clients with the Empowering Empath mentorship is I explain to them when you're in the learning phase, you're looking out how can I fit in? What do I need to do to become good enough? And when you're in empowered stance, you're looking at of what do I feel about this energy? What do I feel about this environment? What do I feel about these humans that are near me? Does this feel good? Does it feel respectful, honoring? Does it feel like it's going to be beneficial to all parties? So as we start to move in our day with greater awareness, each of you listening has the ability to tune in. We have all these layers of our energy field. We have like our physical body, we've got our mental body, the emotional body, the etherical body, we've got the auric field, and these are different layers, almost like a jawbreaker. There's all these colors and layers. And in those layers are the ability to tune into higher dimensional experiences, higher realms of consciousness. And so, if each of you can realize, first of all, that you're not just a human body having occasional spiritual experiences, but that you are a spiritual being that is having a human experience. You are a spiritual, vibrational, light being, light, infinite, powerful, beyond what you can even comprehend, energetic, vibrational being is what you are. And this body is your instrument. This is the instrument that will play your music. This is the instrument that will help you express your truth and wisdom and your gifts and magic of spirit, of consciousness. And so the body, the mind, and the spirit, when we're honoring them all, which is why I love teaching yoga and explaining this to souls deeply, that is when we come into that wholeness and that alignment because we honor all the aspects. So when we're learning to tune in to that kind of level of listening, then I can show up authentically and I can listen deeply and feel and discern the energy around me. And that's going to help me make higher choices. So let's say we go to like a network meeting, because I used to go to these, and there's a reason I don't anymore. Not that I wouldn't ever again, but there's a reason I don't go to the one I used to go to. And I used to go to this network meeting, and in a five sensory way, it's what you do if you want to promote your business. This is what you do. You have to go and market yourself. You have to go and you got to do these 30-second commercials and quickly describe who you are and quickly give business cards and try to have coffee with as many people as you possibly can so that they like you and then they might want to do business with you. And I did that for a while and it was insane and it never felt right to me. It always felt weird and it felt uncomfortable. It felt unnatural. And I just one day was like, I'm done with this. I don't need to do this. And it was interesting because I had a meditation that day where Archangel Ariel had told me it is time for you to be completely transparent and authentic. And I was like, okay, I feel like I'm doing that. I mean, I'll keep doing that, whatever you need me to do. And I went to this network meeting and it was interesting because that day, the guy who was leading it, just out of the blue, says, we did our normal little spiel, the commercials, all the robotic energy. And then he said, you know what? I'm just feeling spontaneous. We're going to just all go around the circle and I'm going to have everybody share something about yourself that none of us maybe know, and let's just like say something that maybe others don't know about us. And so I was like, oh shit, here we go. Like my angels totally warned me about this. So it comes to my turn and I was there promoting my artwork in the network group. That is what I talked about, was my artwork and da da da. But this day, that moment came right after Ariel's telling me to be authentic. And so I stood up and I said to everyone in the group, my name's Tanya. You guys know me as an artist, but something you may not know is that I actually communicate with angels and I see dead people. I see spirits. I work with clients and I am assisting angels right now. They are helping me to understand a lot about healing of the auric field. And that is where I'm going in a new direction with my life. And it was completely silent in that whole network meeting. Everyone was just staring at me like, what the crap did she just say? And I remember just feeling like heart palpitations, like, oh God, I made a mistake. But I didn't. What it was I showed up authentically. For the first time, I completely showed myself. And a lot of them were terrified of me. In fact, I remember at the end of the meeting, I went to walk away, and a woman who I had done a workshop with once, and I felt we had a really beautiful connection from that art workshop. I was like, hey, how are you doing? And she ran by me and was like, Jesus is the only one for me. And she ran by. And I was just like, okay, go Jesus. Because I didn't even know what that meant, but I knew in my deepest places that she was afraid of me. And it was from showing up authentically, because what I shared with them, they didn't know what to do with it. A lot of them didn't know what to do with it. They were just kind of like, blink, blink, like, what the crap is that? That makes us uncomfortable. But it was so important for me to show up authentically. And later, I didn't go to these meetings anymore just because I knew, I'm like, this is not the group of beings who really love and honor me for who I am. So my point was saying that is that if you can be comfortable for what may change in your life, there may be people who aren't comfortable with you shining, that are not comfortable with you talking about spirits and angels or talking about how you feel about whatever it is you deeply, passionately feel truth about. That's okay. Not everyone's here to learn from you. So even you speaking that truth, and maybe it made them uncomfortable, that's still what was needed that day, but you need to learn to discern the energy. So an empowered empath looks and says, this energy doesn't feel right to me. We don't need to go anymore then. That's an important time. We could walk into that meeting and just say, angels, who is the most aligned being that is in the highest consciousness for me to connect with? Show me, illuminate them. And you'll just have a feeling, or you'll have someone just come right over to you and say, hey, can I sit here? And you'll start chatting. Play with this concept. When you go to a coffee shop, when you go sit at a restaurant, angels, where should I sit? And you may be having a question of something you want to transpire in your life. And when you walk in with that awareness, your guides may show you, like, go sit right next to them. They actually could be a part of what you're ready to create. Talk to them, speak truth to them. A lot of my intuitive friends, this is how we live all the time. And they'll talk about it like, oh, yeah, I walked in and my guides were like, go over and talk to them. And that's like no problem, just like normal everyday stuff. But they're living in more of a sixth sensory aligned way where they're honoring how they can access these different realms of consciousness, and that they can tune into the unseen, they can tune into the vibration and the energy of a room, of a person, and they can read that energy, and they can tune into, will this energy serve me, or is this just a distraction? This is something I've done, like where people come up to me and be like, oh, Tanya, I want to work with you, I want to work for you, I would like to do this for you. And I'll be like, okay, awesome. And then I'll tune in and I'm like, okay, well, I'll be open to them showing up. But what my knowing is telling me is they're not going to do it. They're not even ready. They're just, they're saying this, but they're not really someone you're going to be able to count on. And I will be open to them showing me otherwise. But pretty much every time my knowing tells me something, it's the truth. And that is what shows up. So it's important that we start to honor that inner knowing, that inner guidance, because it saves time. It'll keep you from signing contracts with business partners who in your gut you knew weren't right for you from the beginning. It'll keep you from signing marriage contracts from, with someone that in your gut you knew you should never have even dated, let alone marry them. And so this is important. I feel like it's important ways that we can save time in our life and we can live more authentically because we're actually honoring what we feel inside, and we're actually loving ourselves enough to listen to that guidance and honor it instead of hear that guidance and then ignore it, which almost every empath I've trained in mentorship, every soul that I've worked with in the Empowering Empath mentorship has told me that they have done this most of their life. They've got the feelings, they've gotten the awareness, and then they've gone against it. And so, what I'm encouraging and calling forth from humanity, all of you listening, is I am encouraging you, and I am going to be your biggest cheerleader to move in a new direction, even if it feels uncomfortable, because it's not your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is suffering, silence, and not being authentic. That's the uncomfortably comfortable that most of us have been in. But I encourage you to leave it behind and start speaking your truth. Start to, if you're not sure what to say, because I've had clients say, how do you know what to say, Tanya? Like the way you just said that makes so much sense, but I don't know what to say, and I'll get stumbly in my words and I'll feel nervous. So what I do, and I'll just share what I do, you can try it yourself, is before I speak to anyone, I will thank my angels for speaking through me. I will say, Ariel, speak through me with love, speak through me with truth and compassion, and speak through me with clarity. And then I will let that energy alignment happen, and then I speak. And everything that comes out is just what I requested. So if I come from ego and I'm in fear and I've been holding in my truth for a long time, typically I'm not going to probably speak a lot of loving things, because if I've been suppressing all my truth, then most likely what's going to happen is, rah, and I'm just going to be like totally later regret it and say, oh, I was kind of a bitch. Sorry, I didn't mean to bite your head off. That's not really the kind of message I'm talking about. That's when ego has been denying truth, and now ego is going to lash out. So it's like this passive aggressive energy. It's not about that. If we're in our empowered space, we ask our guides, angels, higher consciousness, our highest aspect of ourself, to show up and speak through me with love, clarity, compassion, and truth. And when you're in that alignment, whatever needs to come out will come out. And what the other does with it is their business. That is up to them. We're not to be attached to them. We must get comfortable with releasing our attachments with humans, no matter what the role and title. Recently, I had a daughter who I had not been talking to. Well, it's not that I wasn't talking to her, but she wasn't talking to me for a year. And we had some falling out after my divorce, and it was just very toxic. And she was so angry. And every time we'd hang out, there was just so much tension, and it was always wanting to be talking about the past and the pain. And it got to a point where I was like, I love you so much, but I cannot be around your energy until you heal. And I am so sorry that you're so angry. And I am so sorry that you're hurting. And if I contributed to that in any way, I am so sorry. But I cannot have dialogue with you until you can heal and you can show up in a higher state, in a lighter, more loving space. And she left my movie for a little over a year, and it was painful in the beginning because I was like, oh, that's my daughter, it's my child. But I knew deep inside that this is the highest alignment I must live, to teach her healthy boundaries, to teach her self love. How do we teach in the highest form? Through our own alignment. So if I'm teaching and talking at my child about boundaries and talking to my child about self love while not loving myself, while not honoring myself with healthy boundaries, I'm a hypocrite and they won't respect me. But I stood my ground, I spoke my truth, I pulled my energy back, and I set her free. And I said, I love you, I will be here when you're ready, and I will always love you, but I will not tolerate this abuse another day. And she was gone for a while and just recently came back and asked if she could connect with me. And we had a beautiful lunch together, and we hung out the other day. We're going to go see a movie, and it's just things are healing. But I had to honor her time to go away, her time to go out there and let her anger out and do whatever she needed to do. And that is actually unconditional love. That is actually the highest form of love. And a lot of us, we're not taught this love because we're taught, if you're the mother, like, oh, you should be doing something. You should make her do this, or you better get her to do that. Look at what she's doing. Aren't you embarrassed? Like, look what she's making you look like. This is all ego. This is all conditional love. And we cannot really love another with that kind of love. That's actually ego, and it's fear, and it's attachment. And so I just encourage you guys, 555. I encourage you, time for great change. That's what that number represents. And isn't it like time for great change? Isn't that the truth on our planet? For each of us to really wake up from so much that we've been conditioned to believe, ways we've been conditioned to live that have not served us, nor have they served anyone else. So I encourage you all to love fearlessly and love with all that you are, but love yourself and love your alignment with Source first and foremost. Have that healthy self love, the healthy boundaries, and watch how all the others that come in will show you that greater love. And the ones who aren't willing to, they may leave your movie. Bow to them with honor and set them free, because you set yourself free as well. So I'm going to pause. Is there any comments coming in, Amnon? Anybody want to call in for a reading? Amnon, is your thing silent? Okay, I don't hear Amnon, so I'm just going to read this card that I chose today. So one of the cards, I feel it's so perfect for today, is called the Gates of Heaven, and it's from the Kuan Yin Oracle cards, which I love. It says, all beings have an ultimate spiritual destiny of happiness and freedom. All beings, that is truth. Not just some of them, not just ones born into rich families. All beings have an ultimate spiritual destiny of happiness and freedom. Beloved Kuan Yin shines tireless compassion upon all life to this end. Yet sometimes attachments, lower vibrational beings, entities, and elementals become frightened of divine love and believe they will do better to hide in human energy fields instead. This blocks progress towards liberation, where human beings and lower vibrational beings can pass through the gates of heaven into peace, bliss, and homecoming to the spiritual source of all life. Sometimes we need to help beings find their way to the light. They can get attached to earthly energies, people, places, or things. Like trying to enter a forbidden city, they attempt to reside where they should not, within the light of the human energy field. Rather than progressing spiritually on their own journey through the gates of heaven into a higher consciousness of bliss. Sometimes this happens because although the journey can occur to the consciousness of the lower vibrational being, it doesn't seem possible. So I'll give you an example of that. When I was in a marriage where I wasn't happy and I didn't feel loved or honored or appreciated, I had a desire of being empowered. I had a desire to be an amazing leader and role model, but I wasn't quite embodying it yet. And so part of what was keeping me captive to that enslavement of that old energy was deep down, I didn't believe I was capable of being okay on my own. I really had attached myself to my partner, thinking my partner is my good, like my goodness, my money, my everything comes from my partner. And so if he shuts off the love, turns off the hose, I'm going to run dry because he's not giving me what I need. And that was a lie that I had bought into, thinking he held my power. Every soul has this lesson in their own way. Some of us do it with a career. We can think the career holds the power and holds our goodness, our yummy stuff comes from our job. Not true. Source is the source of all good. So our alignment with our source is our highest alignment with our goodness. So that is where our goodness will come from. It will flow through people, through jobs, through situations, but never forget that it is coming from source. It's not coming just from a human, because if we start to attach there, that's where we suffer, and that's when we have codependent relationships. So just a little example I could give you on what that was talking about. You may consciously sense attachments or spiritual presence that is not of the highest vibration and needs to be released from your energy field. Or you may just feel angry, tired, depleted, or not yourself sometimes. This may be because of old energies that need to be released and do not belong to you. So for an empath, often empaths in learning empath stage are out absorbing energies that are not even their own. And then they say, I just don't feel like myself, because they've allowed entities to attach to them. And now they're behaving from that misalignment and it's disrupting their energetic field. So it's important. This is why, as a healer, I help clients not only in clearings, which clears a lot of these energies and entities that are disrupting their bodies, that are causing sickness, causing stress, anxiety, but it also helps them to shift their perspective into a place of empowerment so they no longer go into environments and absorb the energy there. They can actually walk on the earth and observe the energies and make aligned choices from what they observe instead of ignore what they hear and what they feel and go in anyway and absorb heavy energy. And that is not what we're here to do. But many of us, as sensitive souls, empathic souls, that is our boot camp training, is to learn that. Let's see. The healing process below will help you even if you are unaware of the intricacies behind why you are feeling the way you do. You may have just done a clearing or are in need now of a clearing, in which case this oracle is confirmation that it is working, or if you have recently lost a beloved, this is confirmation that they are passing through and are at peace, but could benefit also from your loving prayers to help them on their way in transition. So sometimes as a soul is leaving the body, or if a loved one, an animal, or a friend leaves their body, they need our love and support instead of us looking at, what are we losing, our attachment to them, which can keep them kind of clinging to us, keep them earthbound. It's more important that we come from an alignment where we are loving them and setting them free on their journey so that their soul can go into expansion. It can go and return back to source from which it came. And we feel free and they feel free. So we could I think I'll do a whole nother show coming up soon, just about spirits and energies, entities, what people call ghosts, and how we can assist souls. Some of us may be very gifted and sensitive where we're feeling spirits or we're seeing them. If you're interested in a show like that, let me know. But I think that's what I'm getting intuitively, is I'm going to offer a show soon that's connected with that. But it is 6 o'clock now, so we have hit our time. Is there any other comments or anything, Amnon?
Nope. and I hate to tell you, but I need to go. I'm on a call, and I got to take that.
Okay,
Um,
no
so
problem. Well, we'll sign
let's.
off now.
Okay.
Yeah, so thank you guys for joining. If you want to connect with me, you know how to get in touch with me. I'd love to assist you and serve you as a healer. Join me for my workshops, and thanks so much for joining us today. Have a blessed, beautiful, and empowered rest of your day. Namaste.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Health In with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, The Tanya Love Show, Your Healthy Pet with Gisela DiCarlo. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by Atomus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.